The full moon in Aries on Monday, October 6th, captures the dramatic Mercury-Pluto square and inspires intense conversations, secrets coming to light, and powerful opportunities to share your truth. Let's take a closer look at this full moon and break it down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you enjoy my work, please leave me a like, a comment, subscribe, and press the notification bell. Check out the rest of my content. I have a lot more general videos about your perfect partner, planets through the houses and the signs, and so much more. All of that encourages YouTube algorithm to be friendly, helps me grow, and I in turn feel happy to bring more content your way. So thank you so much. You can also say thank you by buying me a tea, a coffee, a croissant, and showing your appreciation that way. Before we dive in, for anyone looking for personal advice, you want me to decipher your natal chart and tell you what your strengths are, what your karmic purpose is, what your relationship lessons are, and so much more, you can book a reading. Natal chart reading is perfect for that. You can also get a relationship consultation or a look at your year coming up. Solar return reading is great right around your birthday. You can also book a natal chart reading and specify that you'd like me to do a locational astrology or an electional astrology. The former is about figuring out the best place in the world for love, career, success, and so much more. And the electional astrology is all about picking the perfect moment to initiate something. Find it on my website. I enjoy doing readings. I'm also currently teaching my Natal Astrology Blueprint of the Soul course, which is super exciting. More classes are going to come right after this one, so keep your eyes peeled. I'd love to highlight my 2026 planner. This one is in the color of transformational teal, which is the color of 2026. It includes insights into the year coming up, gives you basics of astrology that you can learn, breaks down each month and gives you guides for it and transits for it. There are full moon, new moon pages that involve ritual suggestions. I keep working on my creations and upgrading them, making sure that they serve me and you in the best way possible. You can find it on my website. On there, you can also check out the planetary magic creations I make, such as candles and oils. In this video, I'd like to highlight the Exalted Moon candle because we are talking about the moon. And when the moon is full, the energy is intense. We may feel deeply, we may feel irritated, especially with the moon in Aries. It has strong propensity towards burnout. It gets excited, but then it loses energy, feels overwhelmed, and needs a nap. So the moon in Taurus is the candle that captures the moon in rulership. Really good for manifestation, for creating stability, ease, and peace. It can also improve fertility and improve your sleep. I love this candle for more difficult times. Any kind of new moon, full moon rituals could be lovely if you have your natal moon in Scorpio or Capricorn, which is the sign of fall and detriment. If your natal moon conjoins squares opposes Saturn, Uranus, or Pluto, or Chiron, this can be very relaxing, softening. And if your moon is in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, this is a good candle to go for that. So we're talking about the full moon in Aries. The full moon is the culmination of the lunar cycle. We get a new moon. In this case, we had a solar eclipse in Aries on March 28th, 2025. So reflect on what was happening in your life in late March, early April. And the new moon is planting of the seed in the dark, fertile soil. So in late March, something could have been beginning in your life. Take a look at your text messages, your phone numbers, your pictures. What were you doing? What were you working on? And do report down below because it helps all of us to know kind of cycles and events happening in other people's life, because I think it helps be more reflective in our own life. So the new moon was March 28th. Right now we are in the full moon phase. So something might be completing, blooming, blossoming, changing. In Aries, this is about courage. This is about independence. This is about trying new things. And I always love thinking of Nike. they did not endorse this video, but I like their sort of motto of just do it. This is a very Aries energy. So somewhere in your life, maybe it's time to just do it. Maybe it's time to pivot. Maybe it's time to celebrate that you've been just doing it for a while. So on October 6th, on Monday, we have the full moon. It happens at 11:47 p.m. Eastern. So if you are in Europe or in other parts of the world besides the US or Canada or Southern America, it will be on Tuesday, October 7th for you. So adjust for your time zone. And it is happening at 14 degrees 8 minutes of Aries, this lunation specifically. So you will feel it the most if you have planets between 11 and 17 degrees of Aries, Libra, Cancer, or Capricorn. And that also includes your ascendant, descendant, midheaven, IC, your nodes. Pay attention, because then it's hitting something personal in your life, and something personal might be coming full circle. Like, let's say it happens next to your Mercury, and maybe there's been an intellectual project you've been working on, a message you've been writing, and now you feel ready to share it. So the full moon also highlights the tension between where we are on a collective level and what needs to be adjusted, right? Like what needs to be balanced. So the full moon in Aries always happens in Libra season, because the sun and moon need to be opposite, and the sun in Libra is opposite the full moon in Aries. So with the sun in Libra, the focus is on relating, the focus is on balancing, creating harmony, understanding ourselves through relationships. And so this full moon really says that that is all good and great, but without understanding yourself, you cannot be a good partner. Without understanding yourself and your desires, you cannot be a good boss or a good businessman or whatever it might be, right? So there is this sense of like needing to get the balance right. If you've been leaning too much into being independent, maybe the balance is about sharing and trusting and welcoming relationships. But if you have been too codependent and too much in your relationships to a point of losing yourself, then this is your opportunity to choose yourself and to get some clarity. The ruler of the full moon is Mars in Scorpio, so that's a positive thing. We have a very strong strategic Mars in the mix. And what also happens at the time of this lunation is that we get Mercury in a square to Pluto, which is quite a big deal to have. I'm just going to pull up the chart for the lunation real quick. So Mercury would have just entered Scorpio a day before, on October 5th, and it is squaring. So it actually enters Scorpio on the same day, forgive me, Monday, October 6th, just like 10 hours or so before the lunation. And then it squares Pluto the next morning. So basically at the time of the lunation, Mercury is very closely in a square to Pluto. So Mercury is the microphone, Mercury is the messenger, Mercury is the secret keeper, and Pluto is the darkness. Pluto is the lord of the underworld. Pluto is the well of secrets. So what can this suggest? First of all, do look back at what was happening in your life when Mars squared Pluto on September 24th. 2 days before, 4 days after, or 4 days before, 4 days after, because this would have been a kind of crisis point. And now Mercury squaring Pluto gives you a chance to discuss this crisis point. And so you know, I think first we need to maybe have a difficult conversation. We need to address a power dynamic. We need to understand what's not working. And we will try to do that with the balanced Libran way and with a strategic Mars and Scorpio way, even sort of strategic and sensitive Mercury in Scorpio way. But I think the goal here is to be vulnerable and to be honest instead of trying to hold all the cards close to your chest, close to your heart. So I see intense conversations, I see secrets, I see a chance to speak up and express your truth, express what's of value to you, and through that build more self-awareness and build better relationships, because the full moons are always about balancing the opposites, right? The sun in Libra sees the value of partnership, and the moon in Aries sees the goal of self-expression and independence and taking risks. But in the best type of situation, we want to balance the two. So we're going to take the lunation through all 12 zodiac signs. Just a reminder, on my website, you can book a reading. You can also pick up my 2026 planner. If you get this before October 1st, you can save $6. Check out the coupon code down below. And of course, you can pick up my candle and my lovely candles and take advantage of everything I have to offer. If you are in Aries rising, there's a full moon in your first house. So what was happening in your life in late March when we had an eclipse in your first house, solar eclipse, new moon? Because a personal chapter of growth is fulfilling, right? I have a friend who started a job in March, and she was unfortunately just let go from that job in September, right? So I'm filming this in September. So there is kind of a sense of like, who am I now that this did not work out, right? So maybe you started a new job and you're kind of trying to figure out whether you're in the right place, whether something needs to be adjusted. Maybe you're discovering yourself through some kind of adversity. We have the ruler is Mars and Scorpio in the 8th house. So there might even be some financial concerns that you are considering, maybe some spiritual transformations, some healing that you're doing. The Mars and Scorpio might also be about separating yourself from people and relationships and dynamics, right? Like I can see this as someone who has been battling out for custody over children, for example. And so there is this sense maybe something is completing, right? Maybe you're cutting ties, or the children are grown up, or you're like alimony is running out. So there might be some type of like sense of self-discovery out of letting something go. But it can also be, you know, overcoming a health issue, finishing a personal project, understanding yourself in the context of a relationship, and maybe speaking up, asserting yourself. Mercury in the 8th squares Pluto in your 11th at the time of this full moon. So reflect on late September, September 24th, specifically 4 days before, 4 days after. Was there any friction, any tension around money, any issues with friends? Because the full moon is this, it's this like, it looks at the sun in the 7th. It has the ruler in the 8th. And there's this powerful opportunity to express yourself fearlessly, but with compassion to yourself, to other people, and like talk about something that does not feel fair, and even maybe grieve the loss of something, the ending of something, and like celebrate your courage and celebrate your resilience and commitment to working on yourself no matter what happens, right? You are a survivor. You've survived everything life has thrown at you. So take a moment to take care of yourself and use this lunation as an opportunity. Check out my website to book a personal reading. Pick up my 2026 planner. It's officially on sale. You can save $6 if you get it before October 1st with a coupon code in the description. And highly recommend my lunar candles, because these are the most soothing, relaxing, and chill ones I have. If you are a Taurus rising, here we're looking at the full moon in your 12th house, the domain of spirituality, mental health, self-defeating tendencies, blind spots. And take a look back at late March 2025 when we had a new moon solar eclipse in your 12th house. Maybe you started therapy, maybe you started a spiritual project, maybe you started letting go of a bad habit. So this full moon will illuminate your blind spots and your bad habits. And it has the potential to be quite revealing. The ruler of the full moon is Mars in your 7th house of relationships. So the bad habits might involve maybe avoiding conflict in relationships, maybe sort of shying away from it, or maybe putting the needs of other people first and not kind of taking care of yourself, because Aries is your blind spot, right? It might be a sign that like there is kind of a feisty part to you that you're not expressing, or you're not expressing in the most constructive way. And so it needs to be brought to attention. One way it can also be brought to attention is by realizing that your love for martial arts maybe needs to become a career, or your love for astrology maybe needs to be taken to another level. At the time of the full moon, Mercury in the 7th also squares Pluto in the 10th. So there may be some issues at work, some power struggles, maybe some realization that the way things are going doesn't quite fulfill you or makes you happy. So it's an interesting one because it's happening in your blind spot and in your dark house. So outwardly, there may be not a lot of like important developments, but then Mars is in the angular house and Pluto is in the angular house. And so questions of relationships, career, future are quite important for you. So maybe quietly, slowly but surely, you're going through really deep transformations. And another clue you can get is by looking at September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto, because now we have Mercury squaring Pluto and the energy might be similar. There's like something feels irritating and something needs to be spoken, expressed, and maybe transformed and released. For personal advice, highly recommend booking a reading with me. We can take a look at your natal chart, talk about your year coming up, your relationship, and more. On my website, you can also pick up my beautiful 2026 planner. It is the transformative teal color, the color of 2026. I asked the internet for advice. So pick it up until October 1st. You can save $6 by using the coupon code below. And I also highly recommend my Exalted Moon candle. This is soothing. Moon in Taurus can help you deal with any challenging transits and any big feelings. If you are a Gemini rising, there's a full moon in your 11th house, the house of friendships, networks, hopes, and dreams, and social media. And we are completing a chapter started in late March with a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. So if you've started working on a project that involves a YouTube channel, a podcast, release of a tarot deck, maybe you're getting ready to launch it, or you do launch it, right? Like full moon in the 11th gives power to your visibility. It helps you shine. It brings important connections. It highlights your relationships, both in the positive and the negative way. In the negative, it could just mean that a certain friendship has reached its expiration date, or a certain relationship needs to be discussed, right? We have the ruler is Mars and Scorpio in the 6th, so it might highlight your relationships with colleagues. Maybe even like Mars and Scorpio is really hardworking, so something you've been like working on and dedicating a lot of energy to is getting ready to become public and known. We do have this like Mercury in the 6th squaring Pluto in the 9th, which is reminiscent of September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto. So think about that. Let me know down below if you remember what kind of frictions appeared in your life. But this feels like, maybe the change in the friendships and in the collective is coming out of something like that's not quite working in a friendship. Maybe you need to have a conversation about something. Maybe you're going through a priority shift. Maybe you've realized that you're a vegetarian now and you can't really hang out with people who eat meat, or some kind of like spiritual change can be happening. As well as the Mercury square Pluto can just, I think, highlighting your focus on education, travel, having more freedom, astrology, spirituality, teaching, guiding, learning. And so maybe the full moon in the 11th is a sense that you're having to release something to get in touch with what's of value to you and pursue that. Hopefully. Please share. For more, visit my website to book a personal reading. You can also pick up my 2026 planner. It is fresh. It just went on sale and you can save $6 before October 1st by using the coupon code in the description. Also, check out my Exalted Moon candle. This is Moon in Taurus, very soothing and relaxing. For the beautiful Cancer rising, there's a full moon in your 10th house, career, status, public life, your reputation, what you're known for when you exit the door of your house and go out into the world. Maybe you're known as the dog walker or as a person with candy. That's great, right? So here we are looking at the change, completion, some kind of transformation of what people know of you, of what you're aspiring towards, of what you're working on. Take a look back at late March. We had a solar eclipse new moon on March 28th, which could have launched a new project, inspired some kind of new beginning in your life. And so now you're completing it, right? And very sort of low-hanging fruit here is getting a job you've been applying for, quitting a job, starting a business, getting a raise, getting a project you've been wanting. Some kind of like important professional shift might be possible. Please share if this is what you're working on. The ruler is Mars, empowered Mars and Scorpio in the 5th house. So I think there's a suggestion that you're directing your efforts towards creativity, maybe towards even like being a parent, spending more time with your child, or doing something of maybe value to children, right? Basically, you're prioritizing, I think, more fun and pleasure in your life. However, Mercury squares Pluto around the same time in the 8th house, and some type of conversations around maybe your salary, maybe around fairness, maybe about your schedule, maybe you're having to advocate for yourself to create more balance between like, hey, this is exciting, I like this job, but I also need time to spend it with my child, or I need time to date. Maybe you're not telling this exactly to your boss, but there is some type of like conversations around karmic debts and difficulties that need to be had. Take a look at September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after, when we had a similar aspect, but Mars was squaring Pluto, because that could have highlighted some type of monetary concerns, karmic debts, issues that you needed to address. And do share how this resonates in the comments below. Enjoy this full moon. For more, visit my website to book a reading. Pick up my 2026 planner. It just went on sale, and until October 1st, you can save $6 by using the code in the description. And also highly recommend my Exalted Moon candle. Very soothing, relaxing, and good for manifestation. For the lovely, bright, and solar Leo risings, the full moon is happening in your 9th house, and it completes the cycle started in late March 2025 with the solar eclipse in your 9th house. So here we're looking at change, transformation, ending, culmination in the area of education, travel, writing, publishing, legal matters, faith, and beliefs. And so it could be a very spiritual change where you're realizing that you don't belong to the same religion that your parents practice, or your worldview is changing. But it can also be about graduating, finishing a course of study, becoming a teacher, finishing a manuscript, completing your dissertation, going on a trip you've been planning for a while, or opening yourself up to a new perspective. The ruler is Mars and Scorpio in the 4th, so it's highlighting the focus on planting roots. So relocation could be in order for you, maybe some type of shift in a dynamic, a shift around visas and green card in your homeland, right? Receiving a green card, getting a visa to move somewhere else. Maybe even some type of, definitely some kind of question of like, how different you are from your family of origin and from your early life. Mercury at the time of the full moon squares Pluto in the 7th house, highlighting some important conversations around relationships, maybe death and rebirth, a need for better boundaries. Again, sort of, I have a feeling like a change in the home family dynamic that is inspired by what's happening in your relationship. Do share and do reflect on what was happening in your life on September 24th as well, very recently, 4 days before, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto, because Mercury square Pluto carries similar energy, but also highlights the need to speak up and express something, maybe even expose something, and potentially make connections between your home life, your family life, your early life, and what's happening in your romantic life. For more, visit my website to book a personal reading, pick up the Soothing Exalted Moon Candle, and until October 1st, you can save $6 on my brand new 2026 planner, which will guide you through the year to come. I have updated it to include ritual suggestions for lunation, so it keeps growing and improving as I keep growing and improving. All of that is at anastasiadoesastrology.com. For the beautiful Virgo rising, there's a full moon in the 8th house, so you can expect changes around debts, loans, your mortgage, your partner's finances, or any kind of finances, resources, and gifts, opportunities other people share with you. This could involve a repayment of a debt, change of a loan, right? Refinancing a loan, or maybe a release of support of somebody, or welcome of support of someone into your life, right? Ending of a custody battle, maybe ending of a divorce proceeding, things like that could be highlighted by this full moon. The ruler is Mars in Scorpio in the 3rd house. So it highlights the need to negotiate and discuss, maybe even value your skills, your knowledge, your writing abilities. And perhaps with the full moon here, you're renegotiating your salary, asking for more money. If I haven't mentioned this yet, take a look at late March 28th, 2025, when we had a solar eclipse in Aries. That was the new beginning, new moon here. So what was started? What was happening in your finances, in your give and take dynamics? What was happening with the partner's finances? Because this can also mean that something is changing in their life. The big question here is whether things feel fair, and if they don't, what needs to be said, what needs to change. Mercury at the time of the full moon squares Pluto in the 6th house, so the darkness, the frustration, the irritation gets a microphone, gets an opportunity to express itself. I'm also wondering, I feel like with Mars in the 3rd, it gives you a lot of ideas. Mercury in the 3rd gives you ability to write and speak. Maybe there's just a lot of focus on making your own schedule, starting your own business, having a side hustle or something. And so with the full moon in the 8th, you're having to navigate these agreements, spoken and unspoken, contracts, duties you have to other people, debts you have to other people, and trying to kind of release what doesn't serve you. Please share how this resonates. For more, visit my website to book a personal reading, pick up this lovely Good for Manifestation Exalted Moon Candle, and my 2026 planner, the beautiful teal color of the 2026 year, is on sale until October 1st. You can save $6 with a coupon code in the description. La 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 la. Thank you for listening. For my lovely Libra risings, there's a full moon in the 7th house, the domain of relationships, contracts, and agreements. Can I speak? Let's see. Let's find out. So here we are completing a chapter started in late March with a solar eclipse in Aries. There was potentially a new beginning in your house of relationships. Maybe you started dating someone new. Maybe you signed a new contract. Maybe you've put yourself out there to begin dating. The full moon brings change, a culmination of some sorts, right? Ultimately, it's asking you to connect with yourself and your true desires in relationships, and maybe speak those desires, speak things into existence, write things into existence. So if you started dating someone new, this full moon could be about making a relationship official, getting engaged, getting married, getting pregnant, important developments in the life of a relationship. It can also bring changes to the life of your partner, some type of important transformation. They find a job, they lose a job, they move, you move with them, some type of important development in a relationship that is inspired by them. Seventh house is not just about love and romantic relationships, it's about one-on-one relationships of all kinds. So there may be changes in the lives of people close to you. You're perhaps completing a contractual obligation. Maybe it's even about your mortgage or your lease ending and you trying to figure out how to assert yourself. So very much a balancing act in terms of what you want. Finances get into the mix quite strongly here, with Mars ruling the lunation, being in Scorpio in your second house. So maybe what you're negotiating and addressing is money in a relationship, romantic relationship. Maybe it's your relationship with your child who you're helping get their first mortgage or something like that, right? Like, you need to discuss things, and things may involve money, they may involve love, they may involve sex. They may involve children, especially with Mercury in the second squaring Pluto in the fifth. Reflect on March 28th, as mentioned, for that solar eclipse. And on September 24th, we just had Mars square Pluto, which is replicated by Mercury squaring Pluto on the day of the full moon. What was happening in late September? And what are some of the things that you really need to discuss, right? Because maybe something great is happening in a relationship, but you also feel like you need to protect yourself. And like, Libra rising on the outside is the most charming, the most beautiful, most relationship oriented. But in relationship with the Aries rising, your sense of self can be quite strong, and you really need to find that good balance. So this full moon offers you a chance for that. For more, visit my website. We can talk about your chart, your year coming up, your relationship, and more. Highly recommend this beautiful exalted moon candle. Falls in your 8th house of other people's money, making them extra generous with you with this candle. And my 2026 planner just went on sale. If you buy it before October 1st, you can save $6 with a coupon code in the description. So jump on, take advantage. For the beautiful Scorpio rising, there's a full moon in the 6th house, the domain of work, blood, sweat, tears, health, diet, exercise, everything that is worth sacrificing for and laboring over. So the full moon is a completion of the chapter started in late March with a new moon solar eclipse we had here. Take a look back. It could bring changes in your health if you've been dealing with some kind of issue. Maybe you discover the solution, you figure out the right combination of procedures, supplements, and things like that. So it can bring change and positive development there. Professionally, if you've been looking for work, the full moon could be the time you find it, or the time you get promoted, you get some kind of professional shift. The ruler is Mars, very strong in Scorpio in your 1st house. It is empowering you to stand up for yourself, to take action, to seek visibility, to take risks, right? So the full moon in the 6th might be this kind of culmination of you finding a worthy cause and speaking up and being a beacon of hope for other people. We do have a more challenging Mercury-Pluto square, with Mercury in Scorpio, your 1st house, and Pluto in Aquarius, your 4th. So there may be some crisis in the home, or some kind of boundary you need to set, some type of power struggle you need to address that involves home, that involves your living situation. Let's say you are finding a job that you like, but you have a young child, and maybe there are a lot of fears and a lot of sort of doubts that are connected to that. Or you're finding a job, but your parents don't approve of it or something like that. So a certain opportunity to resolve a crisis is presented by this full moon. Take a look back at just recently, September 24th, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto, because Mercury square Pluto at the time of the full moon is similar to that, except now it has a bit more, I think, of a constructive energy of we can talk about it. So don't shy away from difficult conversations at the time of this full moon. Visit my website to book a personal reading. And check out my shop. There is the 2026 planner, just went on sale. You can save $6 if you get it before October 1st. The coupon code is down below. And you can also pick up this lovely exalted moon candle. This is Moon in Taurus, falls in your 7th house of relationships. Very soothing and joyful and good for manifesting. For the lovely Sagittarius rising, there's a full moon in the 5th house. We are completing the chapter started in late March 2025 with the solar eclipse, new moon in your 5th house. So important point in time to consider. Look at the pictures, look at your phone, your emails, and things like that. The full moon in the 5th house brings culmination, recognition, change in your domain of creativity, play, pleasure, love, and children. So creatively finishing a project, right? Presenting a project. In terms of children, finishing a baby, finishing baking one and giving birth to a child. In terms of love, this could be the time you start dating someone or you move a relationship to a different level. It can also be the time when your bad habits, your maybe indulgent tendencies become more apparent based on the fact that the ruler is Mars and Scorpio in the 12th house. So Mars is sitting in the 12th, encouraging you to work through all the clutter, all the spiritual tension and insecurities you may have. So either you're setting something free, you're letting go of a bad habit, or I can see this also as coming to terms with what is pleasurable to you. Maybe there is something you really wanted to try in the bedroom, but you felt like you can't speak about it because it's taboo and your partner wouldn't understand you. And now you're getting the courage to speak up about it because we also have Mercury squaring Pluto in the 3rd house. And maybe it will be uncomfortable, but it could lead to more fulfillment and clarity and sort of honesty in a relationship, more vulnerability. It doesn't have to be about sex necessarily, but it could be like something else, right? If you're single, this could be about just like generally becoming clear on what you want in a relationship, maybe realizing your self-defeating tendencies. Again, look back at late March and do share if you remember. And also, more recently, take a look at September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto, which is quite similar to Mercury squaring Pluto, but maybe a bit more of a fight. And this time around, it's more of like a conversation. Do share. For more, visit my website to book a personal reading. You can also pick up my newest 3rd edition, my planner for 2026. If you get it before October 1st, you can save $6 with the coupon code down below. And my candles are also awesome. I am very handsy and creative, very Gemini moon, Virgo sun. Let's take the ideas out of the head and make things happen. And I always do it kind of out of a desire to make my life easier. So the same goes for sharing my gifts with you. Thank you for listening. If you are a Capricorn rising, there's a full moon in your 4th house. So we're looking at the domain of home, family, living situation. Something was started here in March 2025, late March, with a new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Even further back, take a look at April 2023 when we had the first solar eclipse in Aries. So it could be a completion of a 6 months long chapter. It could be a completion of a 3-year long chapter, right? But here we're changing where you live, who you live with, what is home, what is comfort, what is security, what is happening in the family. So could be you're moving, maybe you're completing a home improvement project. Maybe there's shifts within the family and like your parents are moving out of your childhood home. Some kind of transformation, ending, change around home and family dynamics. It's interesting because the ruler is Mars and Scorpio in your 11th house. So it's almost like what changes do you need to make to your home and family life to get you closer to your dreams, right? Maybe sometimes it's about building a studio in your house. Other times it's about you know, maybe moving back in with your parents so you don't need to worry about spending a ton of money on rent or something. The changes could be quite different depending on the person. Take a look back at late March for sure. Take a look back at September 24th, just recently, 4 days before, 4 days after, when Mars was squaring Pluto, because now we have Mercury squaring Pluto. And there's some kind of, you know, there's some kind of tension involving money. There is some type of maybe conflict of values, maybe some way that you're looking at your future and questioning it because there's not enough finances, or you're wondering about support. And so the full moon in the 4th is, I think, really calling you to connect with yourself and to express what is important to you, and to start by making changes to your immediate environment and by creating comfortable home so that you are more free to go out into the world and create whatever you want to create out there. For more, visit my website to book a personal reading. Highly recommend getting a natal chart or year ahead. My 2026 planner is officially on sale. It is the color of teal, which is the color of 2026, and it has a lot of insight about the year to come, spaces to set your intentions, write your to-do lists. There are insights into every month. It's very colorful, very pretty, and very useful for maximizing your year. Pick it up on my website. Before October 1st, you can actually save $6. The coupon code is down there, and the Exalted Moon candle is lovely for you because it falls in your 5th house. If you are in Aquarius rising, there's a full moon in your 3rd house. So here we're looking at changes, endings, culminations, transformations around communication, schedule, siblings, neighbors, skills, business. We had a new moon solar eclipse here in late March. What was happening in your life at that point? What were maybe new beginnings, the seeds you were planting back then? The ruler is Mars in Scorpio in the 10th, so you're very career-oriented right now, and you're very kind of focused on making a change in the world on some level. So the full moon in the 3rd, maybe you're taking a test, you're finishing a course of study, you're completing a writing project, you're learning programming language to improve your career chances. You're maybe rethinking your schedule, you know, updating your computer, updating some technology that you need with regard for your professional future. Even Mars and Scorpio can suggest that, like, you're getting more involved with your community, right? You're getting more visible and more focused on making a difference. There is a challenging Mercury-Pluto square, which might suggest tension between your outward aspirations and the inner battles, the inner demons you're fighting, or kind of your priorities, your inner quest for truth. And because Pluto in the 1st suggests important transformations that you're facing. And so maybe your outward goals contradict your inner truth. So there might be a need to have some important conversations, to set some boundaries, to deal with some friction. Take a look back at what was happening in your life also on September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after, because Mars was squaring Pluto. And now we have Mercury squaring Pluto. So the energy from that period carries over into the full moon. But I think here it's like the question is, what makes you happy? What do you need to commit to? What do you need to release? And what do you need to speak up about to kind of unite your vision of the world? And maybe your, you know, Pluto in the 1st makes you this dark angel of change. So how can you unite your beliefs and your, you know, futuristic vision and desire for peace in the world with what is actually happening in the world? And maybe it's about little steps. Maybe with full moon in the 3rd, it's about, like, as long as I can help one person right now, maybe this is even you. Start with yourself, right? Then the change will happen gradually. For more, to book a personal reading, visit my website, pick up any of my candles. Exalted Moon is great. And my 2026 planner is on sale. If you get one before October 1st, you can save $6 with the coupon code in the description. Last but not least, my beautiful Pisces risings. There's a full moon in your second house. It completes the chapter started in March 2025 with a new moon solar eclipse in your second house. So here we're looking at changes around finances, values, priorities, right? Sense of self, sense of confidence. And on a very, like if we're just looking at money, maybe you're paying off a debt, maybe you're making an important purchase you've been saving for, maybe you're getting a raise, maybe you're asking for a promotion or starting a new job, right? Some type of important shifts might be happening here. The ruler is Mars and Scorpio in the ninth. And ninth house is quite spiritual. It is also the house of law and travel and quests and journeys. So I can see you maybe investing into a passion, maybe investing into a trip, investing into an education course that you want to take. Some type of like priority alignment need to happen. And of course, a need to balance your vision of the world with your partner's vision of the world, or like what you have and can spend on versus what your debts are and what your already existing financial obligations are. So a bit of a balancing act. We also have Mercury in the ninth squaring Pluto in the 12th, which can be revealing in terms of your spiritual passions or your bad tendencies, bad habits, right? Maybe some kind of impulsivity when it comes to money. You have your second house ruled by Mars and it's Aries. It could be quite impulsive. So a need to examine and maybe redirect and figure out what's worth investing into. Definitely take a look at late March, as mentioned, and take a look at September 24th, 4 days before, 4 days after. We've had Mars square Pluto, and now we have Mercury square Pluto. So the energy is similar. The same degrees are getting aggravated and irritated in your chart. So reflect on that and think how maybe certain aggravation, irritation, and difficult conversations can actually move you forward, and how sometimes it's important to connect with what you want and be really clear on what you can compromise and what you cannot compromise in order to build better relationships, better career, and better life. For more, visit my website, book a personal reading. You can also check out my candles. Exalted Moon is the candle of choice for this transit. And my 2026 planner is on sale. It's beautiful teal and it's full of insight to help you maximize the year to come. Check it out. If you get it before October 1st, you can save $6 with a coupon code in the description. And thank you all the beautiful people, my lovely astrology lovers just like me, for watching. I hope you enjoy it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do leave me a like. Do send me a happy thought and enjoy this full moon. Connect with your inner warrior and hopefully you'll find balance through doing that. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.